It's Thanksgiving week here in the U.S., and so this week we are talking thankfulness or gratitude, how we're more purposeful about it, how we cultivate a spirit of gratitude in our lives, how we practice it and show it in ways that are more life-giving to others. Hope you enjoy. Who live in the U.S., we have so much to be thankful for. So much relative ease and prosperity, yet if you're like me, you take many of your blessings for granted. Rather than recognizing how good we have it relative to 99% of the other inhabitants on this earth, we compare our current situation to that of our richest neighbors, or worse, those whom we see portrayed in the media. As a result, we feel impoverished, we experience less happiness, and others don't receive the best that we have to offer. The solution is to choose gratitude and thankfulness as our primary emotional posture. Why practice gratitude? Why is gratitude or thankfulness important? Numerous books and studies that have come out in the last 10 to 15 years point to how beneficial expressing gratitude is for our own emotional well-being. In The Gifts of Imperfection, Brene Brown shows that expressing gratitude is one of the central habits of those who she describes as wholehearted, those people who experience the most joy in life. Andrew Weil, Harvard-educated physician and author of numerous books, including Spontaneous Happiness, maintains that regularly expressing gratitude increases our emotional set point, or the actual psychological capacity we have for happiness. Other studies show that those who focus on cultivating appreciation produce lower levels of the stress hormone cortisol and therefore experience less stress overall. And while it's good for us, it's in our power to pass along these gifts to others. When we affirm others, when we name what we appreciate in them, it lifts their spirits. So why practice gratitude? In short, it's good for everyone. Now, let's get clear on our terms. What exactly is gratitude or thankfulness? To be grateful is not the same thing as being happy. Gratitude is more than just realizing that you have it good in life. I like Harvard Medical School's definition. The authors in a study of November 2011 describe it as, quote, a thankful appreciation for what an individual receives, whether tangible or intangible. With gratitude, people acknowledge the goodness in their lives. In the process, people usually recognize that the source of that goodness lies at least partially outside themselves. As a result, gratitude also helps people connect to something larger than themselves as individuals, whether to other people, nature, or to a higher power. End quote. Now, I want to highlight two parts of their definition and come back to another aspect at the end of the video. First, gratitude involves recognizing, appreciating, or realizing that one has received something of benefit. Second, gratitude involves some kind of expression or response to come to fruition. These two actions constitute a virtuous circle, where becoming conscious of one's blessings will tend to promote greater expressions of thankfulness. These expressions then open our eyes to even more things for which we can be thankful. This virtuous circle or virtuous cycle of recognition and expression leads to greater joy within and more positive interactions with others. Let's talk now about how we cultivate thankfulness or gratitude. As I just mentioned, gratitude involves two dynamics, if you will. One is recognizing those benefits for which we can be thankful. The other is responding to the receiving of those benefits, either verbally or otherwise. In order to cultivate gratitude, we'll want to be deliberate about each of these dynamics, becoming more aware of the gifts we are constantly being given, and then becoming more consistent and intentional with our responses. To become more aware of your blessings, first, remind yourself of the constant and continuing sources of sustenance and joy in your life. Keep a list and review it regularly. I have a daily list of the life-giving roles and relationships in my life, which I have on my phone, and I review this list every day, or just about every day, with my first morning cup of coffee. Number two, open your eyes and look. Throughout the day, ask yourself, right now, right here, right now, for what can I be thankful? Make sure then that you give yourself an answer. Number 3, compare wisely. Theodore Roosevelt said comparison is the thief of all joy, which is true the way most of us compare. We look at those of our acquaintances who seem to have it better off, or worse yet, we compare ourselves to celebrities who are younger, more fit, have vast wealth, and a huge following, and our life seems terrible in comparison. On the other hand, when you realize that by virtue of your ability right now to view these comments on YouTube, you have access to greater wealth than 99% of the world's population. It's true. Look it up. This puts a different light on things. So make sure you have some real perspective and then compare appropriately. Now, reduce your exposure to commercial media whose sole purpose is to sell you something. What is their most frequent tactic? It is to foster in you and me a sense that we're lacking something important, that we're not good enough, that we need their product or service to be whole. As hard as it is, put the phone down. Get off the internet or TV more frequently, and you'll experience a bit more peace. 5th, stop verbalizing negativity. Put a hand over your mouth. Now, I'm not suggesting that you deny difficulties in your life or that you have to put a spit shine on everything. On the contrary, it's often healthy, even necessary, to talk through tough circumstances or events or relationships with some trusted person. I'm talking about when someone cuts you off in traffic, or you start hitting all of the lights on the way home, or you walk in and the cat has had a hairball, or no one went to the grocery store, now the fridge is empty, etc., etc. If you're like me, you can start grumbling, first to yourself, then often to others about life circumstances that everyone faces. So don't sweat the small stuff. And if you find yourself whining, just stop. Now, that's how to deliberately become more aware. How do we amp up our expressions of appreciation? I'd recommend first that we verbalize specifics. When you're reviewing your list of circumstances or relationships for which you're thankful, don't be vague. Speak to that particular quality that you really like. I'm so thankful for my wife, Melissa. Yes, but what in particular? For one, she's so kind and thoughtful. This morning, she went out early before work to rake our next door neighbor's leaves. They're having a harder time moving around now, and she did it just to bless them. By naming this specific, it opens my eyes further and helps gratitude not get stale. Secondly, teach thankfulness. If you have children, take a moment with them before bedtime to ask them to think about something they're grateful for. Of course, lead off by sharing what you're grateful for. This can be a regular part of the evening routine, which develops gratitude within them and reinforces it within us. Third, volunteer, give back, pay it forward. Studies show that volunteering for the purpose of helping others increases our own well-being and thus our ability to have more gratitude. It opens our eyes to many of the things that we may take for granted. Our church annually sponsors what we call Turkey Blitz. It's where we partner with a local school to supply and deliver baskets for Thanksgiving dinners to those who may not be able to afford these luxuries. And every year, we all come back. It was one of the activities that we got the most benefit from. Finally, thank God. The word gratitude comes from the Latin gratia, meaning grace, to signify something that is given but not earned by someone other than ourselves. M. Scott Peck, author of the classic work The Road Less Traveled, was a scientist. Yet he used the term grace to refer to those moments in life when goodness just happens. To what do you credit that good fortune? I think there are only 3 logical alternatives. You either earned it, it was all a matter of chance, or it was given to you. If you find the first 2 alternatives to be untrue, as I do, then you're left with the third. So however you conceive of it, open your mouth and give voice. Thank God, whoever you conceive him to be. Now, thanks for tuning in today. I'm grateful for you giving me the gift of your attention. I hope that you enjoy a wonderful Thanksgiving season and that gratitude becomes more deeply embedded in all of our lives. Until next time, be well.